Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Broken Brand. And I'm going to do a quick review of season 4 of The Umbrella Academy. Now, I absolutely loved the first season. I loved the second season. It wasn't as good as the first. Third season is where it really made me question whether I was going to finish this series at all, but I knew I was just because that's how my brain works. And yeah, the actor dictates what the character does versus the actor playing who the character is really irked me something good. And I didn't appreciate that. I thought it was a bad call, but I understood why they did it because they have to. And 3 was a little weird and it seemed convoluted and it just seemed like I was really regretting seeing 4. I was really just on the fence because I mean 3 was a little it wasn't as good. It was not as good. It's probably, I would say season 3 is the worst season out of all 4. So let's get on to season 4. I I enjoyed it. It wasn't great. It was okay. It really was. The story was interesting. They're trying to wrap up the entire story for the Hargreaves family and all the kids, and the way they did it. I won't spoil it, but wow. It was insane. And the whole premise of this is there's what's called the cleanse is coming. There's a group that's starting to realize there's multiple timelines and they're bleeding into each other. And, they have the commission that was made by one of the fives, and all the different timelines are starting to kind of merge and collide with one another. Hey, we haven't seen this before in Marvel or anywhere else. I'm kind of getting tired of the multiple timeline thing. It's just kind of getting old, but they had started this process a long time ago, so they kind of got to finish out the story, and I get it. And honestly, the story was good. Paige was probably, this is the worst acting Paige has ever done. Paige was definitely more of a whiny teenage girl in this season than she was in the other 3. I'm sorry. E. Does that make. I'm sorry. Not really. And the fact that Elliot Page gets top billing when Paige is not the main character, and it's centered around all of them trying to convolute and figure out what happened. In this season, we get an answer to how Ben originally died and what the Jennifer incident was, which was interesting, but still leaves a lot of questions. So it kind of makes sense, but this season has 6 episodes while the others had 10. So we didn't get the same run time. And honestly, it's an okay story. I mean, if I was recommending this to someone, I'd say watch season 1, watch season 2, and stop and be done with it. And just forget the other 2 seasons exist. Because to understand 4, you have to watch 3, which is, and 4's not great. The biggest problem I had with this season, and I'm trying not to read too much into it. But 5 and gosh, I forgot her name. Lila. Took me a second. splinter off and are trying to find a way to go back in time using Five's ability to stop all this from happening. And they end up separated from everyone for 7 years. Their time, not everyone else's time. It's just been a couple hours. And they have a very intimate relationship. And yes, Five is like a 65-year-old man trapped in the body of a 13-year-old. And Lila's in her late 20s, early 30s, based on the storyline, with the relationship with a 13-year-old. And I know this isn't in the comic books because Lila was created specifically for the show. And that's why I've only read the first Umbrella Academy book, because once I realized they're diverging widely from it, I just didn't want to read the other three. The other ones, it's just, yeah. That, I don't know if they did that because they wanted to create turmoil or to desensitize us to the thought of an older relationship and a younger person. I'm trying not to read into that, but I mean, it's there. It's hard to deny it. It's right there. And it's like, yeah. Five is like a couple years older than your daughters. Yeah, physically. I mean, not mentally. And so it's a little complicated, but it's also kind of like, hey, why would you do this? It just seems they could have done this without this relationship. They could, I mean, seriously, you cut that out, story works perfectly fine. You cut out them being romantic in any way whatsoever, and you lose nothing from the story, nothing at all. But it feels just, huh. If Elliot Page wasn't in here, I probably wouldn't think this was propaganda. I'd just say it's weird sci-fi writing, but I just can't shake it from my head. So honestly, this is exactly what you would expect for the Umbrella Academy season 4. The story, the characters all seem to follow the exact same setup that they've had in all the other seasons, and it's a good story aside from that romantic story, and it's interesting. It delves a little deeper into the characters, because at the end of the season, because they don't have their powers at the beginning of the season, they get them back, and it's interesting. It's a good story, but it's just not as good as the first 2 seasons. It's just not. So, I mean, seriously, it's ranking them in order from best to worst is 1, 2, 4, and 3. 4 has a better story than 3, and it's less convoluted and more character driven, which is good, and I like that, but it is very, I'm glad it's over. I don't think another season would have produced something better than this, and I can only imagine what kind of chaos and weird messaging would have been in a 5th season. So I'm thankful it's over, and I'm done with it. I'm finally done with Umbrella Academy. Thank goodness. I really just think, yeah, watch the first 2 seasons and stop. Pretend like season 3 and season 4 don't exist. That's my recommendation for anyone wanting to get into Umbrella Academy, and I'm sure there's some people out there that completely disagree with me, but yeah. Yeah. It's over. And thank goodness for that. So, if you started it and you want to finish it, it is a better story than season 3. But if you haven't started Umbrella Academy at all, stop at season 2. I promise you. It's like what season 3 and season 4 will just really just put a bad taste in your mouth. It really will. And the way it ended is final, and thank goodness for that. So, until next time, my friends, as always, I love you all, and there's nothing you can do about it.